Howdy, folks. Happy Monday. We're back. Russ is back from vacation. He was riding horses on the beach somewhere. Hop along, Cohen. We'll start with the pre-show. Go ahead, Russ.
So I saw on an email today that the NFL is doing a 2-hour show to roll out their schedule.
Oh my God.
My answer to the NFL is, please go away for the summer. Just go away. Your season doesn't start for months. I don't need to worry about any of your players playing in shorts until August. Just go away. I don't want to talk about who's going to win or lose these schedule matchups where you have no idea who all the players are. I don't care that Mike Tirico and 4 other guys, Nance and whatever, are going to talk about the secrets of the schedule. There's no goddamn secret. You know what the secret is? The season's too long. That's the secret. And they're going to make it longer. So I don't need any of it.
Okay, Jan, this is the thing. I love football. I'm into the season. I'm looking forward to it, even though the Bills, sort of like are going through like a reset type of thing. And like some of their podcasts, they're like doing mock schedules. And I'm like, Jesus Christ. I mean, I like the guys who do the show. I know them. I'm like, but my God, it's like, just wait till the fucking schedule comes out and just look at it then. Why do we have to guess when a team is playing, if they're playing on Christmas or not? Who gives a shit?
Because it's content.
Yeah.
And it creates listeners and it sells dollars. I find it ironic, though, that the NFL can find a 2-hour show, yet their own network, they're culling and canceling people like crazy and firing them. So,
right.
And they're printing money like hand over fist. But B, you're also losing the classic, and Russ can attest to this, the classic Mike and the Mad Dog, as they would go through the schedule when it came out and go, this is a win, this is a loss, this is a win, 5 months before the season started. And it was a classic every time the schedule came out. It was an annual thing. They did on that show for like 15 years. So look, people are interested in terms of the schedule. People want to know when certain games are. Do I need a 2-hour release party necessary, quote unquote, to tell me about it? No, just print it in the newspaper so I can, or email it out so I can see when it's actually coming out.
Let me open up my newspaper. Who does that? Come on.
I'm saying is, or email it. Just send, or put it on. It's going to get on Twitter in about 30 seconds. I'm sorry, X. Go on X in about 30 seconds after it's released with the entire schedule, with a link to look at every single team's schedule.
You want to know a secret of the schedule? The Raiders never play in New Jersey. That's the secret of the schedule.
Now, Peter, what I'm waiting for is the release of the 82 game schedule for the NHL and everybody going through that with a fine-tooth comb.
Yeah.
Not me. I will not be doing it.
I'm waiting for that back-to-back with the Minnesota Wild in January.
But I will tell you, with the Christmas game, on a Wednesday now, there is an impact, right? Because there are a couple teams that really get screwed from a scheduling perspective, and that's something to keep an eye on, because the lack of rest between games is going to be pretty staggering with a Wednesday night game.
Yes.
Like, they just shouldn't do it. Like, it's dumb. Like, I like the Christmas thing, but if it aligns on the weekend, do it.
Right.
If it doesn't, if you can put a 2-hour schedule event together for the NFL, you can do something on Christmas Day. Like, that's not like, if it falls on a Wednesday that doesn't have a team playing on 2 days rest.
Well, what they should do, and of course they won't do this because they don't care about fairness or anything like that, is the teams that end up playing on Christmas, because they've talked about this, and they think Buffalo might be one of the teams. They should have the bye the week before, so they're not playing on
exactly. But who wants to buy that late in the season? Like, you want it midway.
I get it, but I mean, but really, it's really a disadvantage if that's like, I don't know if it's week 15 or 16.
Mike, then you should go to this. They should play. That's the week before they should go to at least a Saturday game, right? At least move it up a day,
right?
So that at least they get an additional day of rest. I mean, there is Saturday games late in the season anyway. Just move it up a little bit.
I'm surprised they didn't sell the rights to the schedule release show to like Tubi or one of those stations.
So here's the fun part, Russ. Have you read the New York Post lately?
No, I would.
So just shush. Just keep quiet for 1 second. So the Yankees part of the Post now actually has a sponsor. It's Montefiore Hospital, and it's on the bottom of the newspaper. I'm like, I was looking at one of them going, when the bloody hell did that happen? Like, now they have a sponsor in the paper for the Yankee section of the newspaper.
Well, Montefiore has been sponsoring the Yankees on TV and radio for years.
But have you ever seen it in the newspaper at the bottom of the section where you're talking about a team? No.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So, okay, let's start the show. Hello, Hockey World. Today is Monday, May 13th, 2024.
I'm Jan Levine, and the NHL Department of Player Safety becomes an oxymoron more and more every single day.
I'm Pete Tessier in smoky Winnipeg.
I'm Russ Cohen, and I left 80 to 90 degree weather to come back to this crap.
And I'm Michael Agello, and it rains every day here, and it's the HockeyBuzzcast here on HockeyBuzz.com. So we'll start where Jan alluded to, because in X blog today, it was I used the comparative here of one play involving what I would say is a relative star player that didn't even get a minor penalty, and another one involving a star player that is getting a penalty and a suspension on both ends of a cross-check sandwich. The non-penalty was the sucker punch from Sam Bennett to Brad Marchand. And, everybody, I know people are going to say, well, this is karma. Brad Marchand is a cheap shot SOB.
He still doesn't deserve that.
Right. I mean, you penalize him for that, but he's a player. And if he gets sucker punched like he did by Sam Bennett, like Sam Bennett did to Matthew Nyes last year, like, Sam Bennett does a lot. And that's the type of player that he is, that he should be held.
Up, but he does know how to throw a punch.
Well, he one of the two. I thought that was Casey Middlestat.
No, he was before Middlestat. I think he was the one.
Oh, okay. But Bennett does not even get a minor penalty. And Marchand misses game 4 with suspected concussion issues. Then last night in the 4-3 win by the Vancouver Canucks over the Edmonton Oilers, at the end of the game, after Connor McDavid slashes at Carson Soucy.
Yeah, he couldn't even do one.
Wait, Soucy hit him first.
But it was a lot. Right,
Soucy hit him first. You got to go sequentially at least to put the full story together.
I was going to, but okay. So Soucy light tap. It wasn't like he two-handed him.
No, agreed.
And then McDavid lightly two-handed him, not like he chopped off his leg. And then Zadorov cross-checks him, and as he's cross-checking him, he knocks him down. And Soucy, I think, was going to cross-check him across the chest, and it ended up hitting him like here, right in his jaw. He's lucky he probably didn't. So Zadorov has been.
Let's hold on.
Let me just read it out, and then you go first, B. Zadorov gets a $5,000 fine, no suspension. Soucy has got a hearing for the Department of Player Safety. Peter, go.
So let's go back 13 years when Johnny Boychuk broke Mason Raymond's back.
Oh, yeah.
And there was no penalty.
Mm-hmm.
I don't ever want to hear, and Mike Matthews, wherever you are, I don't ever want to hear a Bruins fan cry about unjust treatment.
Mm-hmm.
Soucy is about to get Aaron roamed. Let's not even forget that one.
Oh, yes.
In the same freaking series. So this whole nonsense, let's just get that out of the way. What we have to really think about here is this. Did Zadorov cross-check him, or did he shove him with his stick in the hand? They're two different things. Because the play was done, so there was no cross-check. He shoved him. You can't cross-check someone when the play's over. A cross-check is a check done with a stick to check someone to get the puck. So he shoved him. He had the stick in the hand.
Shoved him with.
You can't check someone when the game's over.
No, you're right.
Shoved him. So let's do that. And if I'm Patrick Alvin, I go into the Department of Player Safety and say, your rules are so messed up. You might as well suspend them for the rest of the series, because I don't want to hear any of your BS, because this is BS.
Okay.
I can't remember who did it, and I can't remember who got. I think it was Hoglander, but it might not. It might have been Garland. He got sticked in the nuts from behind as a Edmonton player was going up. Where's the Department of Player Safety there? Like, where's the Department of Player Safety anywhere? You know what it is? It's because it was McDavid. And the first thing McDavid did, he went down on his knees faster than a choir boy in a Catholic church. He literally got up so fast and was in the ref's face crying like he always does. McDavid's a tough boy, guys. He's a tough guy. He can take it. It's just that it's McDavid, and God forbid any Oiler ever have someone sneeze on them in this playoffs, because the Edmonton fans, the Edmonton media will go up in arms about it. You've got the decrepit creep Terry Jones, who's creeped out more women in female sports reporting than any other man in Canada, talking about stuff. And he was daft before he retired, or got forced to retire. He's even dumber now. Again, you've got to water this down to the very essence of what it is. You're going to let them go, or you're not, and you'll let it go all game. So now you can't come cry after the whistle goes when there's a little bit of punching and stuff, and Connor bounced back up miraculously.
Right. Well, that's like Ridley Gregg. I mean, he bounced right back up and played the next game after Morgan Riley cross-checked him and it hit his shoulder, went up to his jaw, but he got 5 games because it was after the game and it was retribution. Or it was like 3 seconds.
Well after the play, Mike.
Right. But Jan, what I'm talking about is a level of consistency here. And
there is none.
No, not at all. And that's the thing that pisses me off. I mean, okay, is the Department of Player Safety pissed off over like Brad Marchand submarining Sammy Salo back in the day and all the crap that he's done? Okay, fine. If that's the case and you're turning a blind eye to him getting sucker punched by Sam Bennett, fine. Then it's frontier justice, and they'll let everything go. But you don't suspend one guy for 5 games for cross-checking somebody who didn't get hurt. And Connor McDavid, in this instance, didn't get hurt and is playing in Game 5. Now, he could have gotten hurt, and maybe what they're trying to do is prevent stars from being targeted. But how about what happened to friggin' Austin Matthews with Jake DeBrusk? Austin Matthews was out for 2 games with a concussion because Jake DeBrusk did a Boston Crab on him, or it was some sort of like wrestling move where he knocked him down behind the net. There's no consistency. The Department of Player Safety blows. They suck. I hate them, and I hate the inconsistency, and they make this league look like a joke with their inconsistency.
It ain't great. I'll say that.
And again, this is why I said it's an oxymoron, and I've been saying it forever, right? They not only do they get calls wrong, they get calls that should be similar wrong, right? There's an equation or an equality between certain calls, right? So go look. I was watching the game last night. I saw the hit. So Pete, I'll agree with you up to a certain extent. It was a dirty hit. I don't think the problem was, as you said, because he was propelled forward. And he right? This is the whole Matt Rempe article argument from a while ago, right? That with Bastian and how high he is, and he was lowering down, he got hit, and he got suspended anyway, right? In this case, because he got checked and he was leaning forward, the cross check that would have come to his chest, right? We ended up hitting him in the face, and that's what created really the optics associated with how this is being viewed. Was it no question a dirty hit? Was it something that's suspendable? If you want to argue a game, maybe. Possibly, but again, given that there's so much that's ignored, and to me, the argument with Bennett today, where they admitted that they saw the replay yesterday, and that didn't change their minds, is mind blowing. Yeah, I mean, to me, I wrote a tweet. I said they honestly would have been better off not saying a word, because you look so much worse now after making that comment, that it's clear as day that he sucker punched him with his hand in the knob of his stick to his chin. It's even more evident now that the league is completely clueless, and they get more and more clueless every single time an event happens that they screw up on.
That was a complete CYA answer by them.
Jan, you're 100% right on all fronts. And you know what? I think Soucy should probably get a game, and I think he will. Mm-hmm. And I think the reason is it's to send a message.
Yeah, it is.
And I don't have a problem with that. Like, I think he tried to do exactly what Zadorov did. Shove him in the front, get out of here. Yes. And and I think that, and I think you should get a game. I don't necessarily agree with it, but I think he should, just to cool it down, because it's a powder keg right now. And when and even the media is chiming in on it and doing subtweets and things like that. Like, I can't imagine what it's like in the press box, because it's a powder keg.
That's a good. I like that. That's a good one.
But to that point about player safety, good governance models include diversity and inclusion of diversity and an equitable thing, a DEI. So DEIs often think about more in a cultural sense. But if you don't have diverse cultural entities in here, you can have diversity within your own organization. You can be inclusive of different levels within the organization, and you can be equitable in who has a say in it. And if there is one part of the NHL that needs some DEI in it, it's the Department of Player Safety. And you need unbiased people who look at the game differently, because they clearly can't look at it differently. They are not able to look at it in the way Jan described. It doesn't exist. So you need someone else in there who is not working for the NHL.
Well, I'm going to tell you
well, first of all, Powers was brought in because he was a guy you would have thought, because of the type of player he was, should have had that mindset, which may have been lacking from others, right? And that clearly, unfortunately, has not been the case. But they need to bring in somebody potentially independent into the group that views things differently, right? And thinks about the game in a whole different manner. And also, look, part of it, as we said, Peter, right? The 1 game suspension is the optics as to who he hit, which I understand to an extent, but they're not doing it with Marchand either, right? He is the captain of that team. He is the leader of that team. And irrespective, look, and Russ can attest to this, right? When Jeff Bukaboom got hit from behind, the guy who hit him from behind got suspended. Irrespective of what you thought of Bukaboom, who was a cheap shot artist even back then, and I loved him as a Ranger, but call a guy what he is, right? He was a cheap shot artist, but the hit was deserving of it. I don't care if you hate Marchand. I don't care if you view him as the biggest scourge of the earth. I know the nickname The Rat makes sense. He's going to go down as a Hall of Famer probably down the road. The hit in itself has to be viewed irrespective of who is getting hit. View the act, not who the act is being done to. And that's the problem, is it's not separate. Bennett is known as a dirty player also, and that's also not been factored. And so you add this up, the NHL, when they released this, we saw the video again, but that doesn't change our minds. Are you just stupid? Like, do you just not get how this works?
Bennett knocked Matthew Nyes out of the playoffs with a shoulder to the head, did not get penalized. So, he's sort of skating now. He's getting a reputation now, and it's going to be like Nick Cousins. Now the radar's out for him. But, this is the thing. It's like, and everybody was sending me the videos of Zdeno Chara sucker punching John Tavares back in 2019 in the playoffs. That didn't even get a minor. And it's like, okay, so there's a book here. There's a book here of, you can sucker punch somebody and that's okay, but you propel somebody into the bench like Zadorov did with Evander Kane, and most of the time, 9 times out of 10, you don't even get a penalty. He got a penalty.
Should have been Michael. It should have been a penalty. It was a clean hit.
Should have been a penalty.
Here's what I would like to see happen, but won't. And this isn't a shot at who's currently there. They always give these jobs to a guy that's been out of the league for too long. You need to give it to somebody that literally just retired. Somebody that's been out of the league for 6 months, looking to stay around the sport, and at least isn't, a decade or 2 decades behind in their playing experience, because that's what shows on the ice. It has to be somebody more relevant than that.
They gave it to Peros because Peros is a former enforcer, former goon who had an Ivy League education.
Right, but 20 years ago. It doesn't matter.
I think he went to Yale or Harvard or whatever.
We could pull up 10. Right, we could Princeton, I think. Princeton. He pulled up 10. We could pull up 10 instances from the past that were no penalties, and it doesn't mean that we don't think it should be a penalty now.
Yeah,
that's the difference, and that's why you got to have somebody in there that's younger and has played in the league more recently.
Well, let's actually go to the series. Talk about the series here for a second, because Peter, I picked Edmonton because I didn't believe in Artur Svilovs as the goaltender. I don't know if I
just wrote about Artur Svilovs, and it's going to come out this week. I'm shocked that I had to write about him.
Very timely there, Russ. But I don't know.
A little sarcasm dripping there from Mike.
Sorry. I don't know if I still believe it, but I also believe that the Edmonton Oilers continue to be a flawed team, a top-heavy team. They're better than they were a few years ago, But you've got Draisaitl, who's clearly hampered, even though he's still performing. He's an amazing player that even when he's hurt, he's still great. But other than Hyman and McDavid and Draisaitl, who's really doing anything? Evander Kane is a complete zero, except for being a cheap shot artist. And they're not really getting good performances out of guys. I mean, Bouchard is playing well, but it's like 4 or 5 players. The rest of the team is sort of mediocre, and Skinner gets pulled after 2 periods in Game 3.
The interesting thing about Seelovs and Patrick Williams had a nice little tweet thing about him yesterday, and you know how Pat literally is the guy for the AHL and understanding it, right?
He's the man.
And he talked about the development and the process that the Canucks went through with him and where he came from and some of his stuff. It was because I didn't know his backstory all that well, and Patrick really, you know, how he emphasizes the importance of that league. Go check it out. It's great insight, as always, from Pat Williams. But the other thing with the Oilers and everything is they weren't that bad at 5-on-5 scoring in the regular season. They weren't as good as the Canucks, but they weren't that bad. So this is the game that's happening inside. Somehow the Canucks they're getting good goaltending, which, you know, and as much as Leon Draisaitl might like to think that posts are goaltending, it's not.
Right.
They're getting that, but they're doing something that's making it hard for the Oilers. Like, don't give them power plays because you'll lose. But they're doing something. And if you see in front of the net, it's only really on broken plays that the Oilers are getting a good chance at things. But they're really making a mess in front of the net for the Oilers to get any kind of shot in there. Like they got, I think it was, who got the late goal to make it 4-3? I can't remember. Was it Hyman?
Hyman.
You know, it was there, but it was kind of a weird play. Yeah, and that was one of the few times, and it was a 6-on-5.
And they got close to tying it too. There were some pucks that went through.
Yeah,
but
it took till the very end.
You saved at the end also there, Russ, to keep it at 4-3. That just went wide of the net by the post.
Knowing Hyman for years, he has no fear. I don't care. You know, I mean, he should have fear with Zadorov and Myers and those guys on defense.
I don't worry about Myers. I think Zadorov's had the biggest impact in this series because I think he is definitely in their heads. I think he has found his role. Teams had him, and he always was going to be some sort of talent. But Vancouver right now, they have found his role, and
he's going to make big money in free agency. I'm telling you right now.
What do you think Brock Besser's worth right now?
I mean, I feel bad for, again, the people who threw the hats. They got duped. They thought they had a hat trick. I'm telling you that this is just a word to the wise. Any game you go to, you always bring like your second or third favorite hat, because if you buy a new hat, there's no way I've spent $35 that I'm throwing it on the ice for anybody scoring a hat trick.
They're too damn expensive. But you know, the funny thing is, the other guy who's making bank right now, not even depending on the end of this series, is Lindholm. Lindholm's got he's got 4 goals in the playoffs. He's been playing fantastic.
He's finally showing up. Like he didn't show
at the right time.
But now here's the other part of it. Has Hronek lowered his value?
No, he
hasn't played very well.
I know, but I don't think that matters. I mean, I think he's fine. I think guys, you know, the other thing where, and Edmonton was doing this for a while because they were just rolling. You know, they got the Warren Fogels and they got the Henriques, and these guys are doing nothing for them. Like, just absolutely nothing. You know, that's where they need to get results. You know, for all the people that want Corey Perry on their team, he doesn't have a point.
So, and he's slowed down so much that he can't even be an antagonistic prick. He's just
nothing. Right
you can just avoid him because he's too slow. But I'll push back on what Flamester said in the chat, because he was saying, well, the Oilers could be up 3-0 in this series. Okay, they blew game 1. Game 2 was 3-3, went to overtime. I don't think the Canucks were in danger. I mean, they almost blew the game late, but I think there's a very good possibility it could have been 3-0 Canucks.
Right. I think, Mike, I don't think they almost blew it. I just think a lot of times in these games now, there's always those 3 or 4 moments at the end of a game where a game could get tied.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is. It's playoff hockey.
Now, the other series in the West, and then we'll swing east, Dallas, Colorado. Dallas won 4-1 on Saturday, and I'll pat myself on the back for being, like Karnak the Magnificent for my fantasy hockey pool, because I drafted Logan Stankoven and Tyler Seguin, and Logan Stankoven and Tyler Seguin had a pair of goals in that game. So I was very happy when I saw that. But, besides that, these are 2 Titans. These are probably 2 of maybe the 4 best teams in the league. This should be the Western Conference Final, but it isn't. I think it's going 7. I don't know who the hell is going to win it. I picked Dallas because I had Dallas players in my pool, and I think they're the better team. I think the difference in this series is going to be Ottinger, because Georgiev wasn't particularly good in game 3, but Ottinger was.
Yeah, Ottinger has been the difference. I think Dallas had to win a game in Colorado. That was obvious, right? So they've done that. I don't think this means the series is over yet. Colorado's got a lot of tricks up their sleeve, and they have a lot of players that could still even get to another level. But this is encouraging for Dallas. I mean, to get that kind of production out of Seguin, who I thought had a good year the last 2 years, but he's not exactly the same player. I think we all would admit that.
The injuries have hurt him.
Ottinger is the reason. He's the one thing you could point to, because, Lundqvist is playing 5 minutes a game. Now, Thomas Harley, he might be another reason, because he's really come of age too.
Yeah, and Jamie Benn freight trained Devin Taves.
Yeah.
And I don't know if there's any after effects, whether he's gonna not play in game 4, but I did note that Taves missed a couple shifts and did not make as much of an impact as he normally does, playing with Makar. Jan, like I said, it's entertaining. I just basically get the barrel popcorn and throw it in my mouth watching this game, because it's 2 great teams. And like I said, I picked Dallas, but very easily Colorado could win.
Yeah, as you said, we were both said, I think, before the series began, right? This could be a Western Conference Final very easily, and probably should be. Now, I'm not taking anything away from Vancouver or Edmonton, but I think we both think that Dallas and Colorado are the 2 best teams out west. The question was the supplemental scoring. Wyatt Johnson took a step forward in that first round. Yeah. Logan Stankoven did late in the year when he got called up. I think Thomas Harley overall this season ended up taking a massive step forward to becoming a really solid defense. He started last year in the playoffs and just built on it this year. So the production did start last year. And as you said also, right, we had major questions going into the first round about Georgiev, which is why a lot of us, I didn't pick Colorado coming out of that series because I didn't think they were going to win. And Ottinger, look, the U.S. is going to have an interesting debate down the road, right? Because I think it's Ottinger, Swayman, and Hellebuck. All 3 of them could be the 3 goalies in 2026. Really. It's a pretty nice question to have as to which one should be between the pipes. But I think is an elite, has become an elite goalie, which is, I think, what we thought might be the difference maker in this series.
I think their 5th stringer would start for Canada.
Yeah, no, they're fine. They're fine.
Yeah. So, okay, swing east. Okay. I watched intently the game on Saturday night, game 4 between the Hurricanes and the Rangers. It was tied 3-3 in the 3rd period.
Me too, yeah.
And I'm sorry, that penalty should not have been called. It really should not have been. It was 3 minutes to go in the 3rd period. It was sort of a ticky-tack where the guy stepped on the stick and slipped, and they called the tripping penalty, and Carolina gets the power play goal and wins it 4-3. I know I'm biased here, and I know Russ and Jan are they're Rangers fans, but they can look at things objectively. I thought the Rangers they started slow in that game, but after about the 5-minute mark of the 2nd period, they were the better team, and I thought they were going to sweep. And there shouldn't be a game 5 being played tonight, but there is.
Yeah, look, they were horrible to start the game. They rallied in the 2nd. Lafreniere was probably the best Ranger and possibly the best player on the ice overall that game. He hit the post in the 2nd. Wenberg had basically half an empty net. He hit the post.
Yeah.
The save by Anderson right before the penalty on Shea. Anderson admits he never saw the puck. He just happened to get lucky that the deflection ended up hitting him in his pads. it was a borderline call, especially at that point in time. I'm not going to. I mean, like, I can't complain too much. I mean, Carolina had not scored on the power play. It's probably a shot that Shesterkin would like back because it was a pretty clean shot. That wasn't a major screen in front. It just happened to hit the post and go in. Look, Carolina, you don't want to ever give a team momentum, right? You don't want to give, I mean, especially if they win tonight, they have all the momentum in the world because they're going home back in front of their fans, which is why I wrote today. Honestly, the pressure is more so on the Rangers, oddly enough, even though Carolina is down 3-1 in the series. And I'm expecting a much better performance at home. But the Rangers did kind of control most of the second period and probably most of the third. Anderson played well. Like I said, two posts, at least 2 posts. I think 2 posts were hit earlier by the Rangers also. I think there were 4 posts that were hit by them during the game. They were the better team overall, but Carolina does get a little bit of life, obviously, by winning and avoiding the sweep. And the thing I wrote also is Jacob Trouba has been actually brutal these playoffs, right? He has had 8 penalties called at him. He's been on the ice for 8 goals against. And honestly, he's also been lucky that twice in the last 2 games, he's tried sticking the elbow out and missed making contact, because if he does make contact, he's going to get thrown out of the game. He's going to get a suspension, and it's going to cost the team. And honestly, there's no reason or reason to do it at all. And he needs to kind of take it out of the game because it's stupid. I know he doesn't have the foot speed overall, which is why they're sheltering Gustafsson in him, especially in terms of matchup, which is why, honestly, tonight's game being at home helps them a lot because they can control the last change, which is what Laviolette's going to have to do because he's sheltering that pair as much as humanly possible in these playoffs.
Yeah.
One of the things about Trouba, watching him grow up as a Jet, when Paul Maurice got here, it wasn't talked about, but a couple people noticed that Trouba had really changed his game after the first season with Maurice. And it came out later that Maurice was talking to him about how you play is going to have a bigger impact on you than how you want to play. Like, how you want to play is, you got to temper that. He's like Trouba's a little bit like a horse, right? You got to break him. He wants to get out and run and get a little crazy. Maurice got through to him somehow. And I know there's a lot of people in Winnipeg who don't have a lot of time for Paul Maurice. Well, look what he's doing right now. But Trouba has that in him, and somehow someone's got to get back into his head, Jan, because when he focuses on playing hockey and keeps that contact edge side in check, he's a much more dangerous player because you don't know when it's going to come out. But when he's always trying to get that elbow up, make that huge hit, he becomes a predictable player and he loses his function. You're 100% right. Someone's got to get into his head again and pull that back, because that's what makes him great, is knowing it's there, but you never know when it's going to come out. Right now, everyone knows he's going to go for the hit. He's not dangerous.
He's almost trying to relive Sidney Crosby in that Pittsburgh series when you're up 3-1. You don't need to be making that momentum changing hit.
I don't think it's that. I think since he's captain, he feels like he needs to be the aggressor and lead, and he's probably overdoing it. But everybody's entitled to a bad series. A few things. I did want to point out that, I've had to be objective about growing up a Ranger fan since the year 2000. So just like Mike, it's a long time ago, folks. But that penalty, like, it didn't really hit me that hard because I was like, the Rangers are going to lose a game. They're just going to lose a game. There's no way they're sweeping the Hurricanes. I didn't expect it. I don't think tonight is as much pressure as Jan's saying, because honestly, I don't think the Hurricanes are capable of winning another game at MSG like a Game 7. I don't think they can do it. So I think that's the little thing that the Rangers have in the back of the pocket. You don't want it to get to that, but I don't think they can. Lafreniere is third in scoring on the team. For all the people that used to text me that he was a bust, not only is he not a bust, but also I felt like some people in the media were lazy with the even strength goal narrative, because I just looked it up, and the Rangers have like 14 even strength goals or 17, and Edmonton has like 20. They're like right up there with everybody else. All of a sudden, Lafreniere is the leader with even strength goals, which he was during the year, and he's picked that up in the playoffs. And I think, the difference for him is, look, people forgot he was only 22 or 21 last year. They all just looked at him as like an number 1 overall pick. Look at all the years he's in this league. He can't do it. But the problem was he needed to round out his game to give him the same kind of confidence that he had in juniors. Now I see the same kind. It's not like all of a sudden Lafreniere has figured out how to deflect the puck in front of the net or shoot the puck. He always knew how to do it. The problem was he was going to have to do those other things to stay on the ice and get commensurate ice time by playing a complete game. And now he's so good, like he's one of the strongest guys they have on the puck.
And it does help that he's playing with Trocheck and Panarin. So it's like,
but I mean, I think that was a function of just kind of like to get him going. Now he deserves to play with those guys. He has more points than Panarin. So I think that's been a really big factor. And Shesterkin's Shesterkin. Like he was always going to be the first or second best guy in these playoffs. Maybe Ottinger's a little ahead of him. That's fine. But that's the way he needs to play. Historically, the Rangers have always had to have a goalie like that, or they're not going to win or go far. They just don't. That's what they've always relied on. It's almost like an organizational philosophy.
Jan, I can't remember who they put in on the fourth line in Game 3. They put Brodzinski in there for Game 4. Are they going to go back to Matt Rempe in Game 5 with them having the last change?
As of right now, it doesn't look like they are. I mean, he was one of the extras. So Vince Mercogliano did a really good piece today, which was a summary of the interviews that he did with both Rempe and Brodzinski. And what was interesting, and I'm really trying to bring him up, is a lot of it last year with 2 years ago, last year also with Gerard Gallant, was that he wasn't a great communicator, right? There wasn't a lot of information that fed down to them. Both Rempe and Brodzinski made comments associated with the lines of communication being open, that how much they communicated, how the practice schedule in terms of what they're doing in practice kept them fresh so they didn't get stale, especially Brodzinski, because it was the first time he played in the playoffs when he got into the lineup the other night, that because of the way they've been practicing in the drills and the 2-on-2s and the 3-on-3s and the kind of practices they've been running, it played a big part of him being ready to just step back in automatically and not having a problem. Look, I know the viewpoint being that Rempe needs to be in because of the record, but I think to a certain extent it's overblown of the impact that he's had. And I think, look, the Garden crowd loves him, but as we know, he got benched most of the third period. I actually thought Brodzinski, while he wasn't noticeable, had a really strong game. And the third line with Cooley, Kakko, and Wenberg might have been the Rangers' best line in that game overall in terms of their play, right? So I thought they played really well. The only piece I want to talk about, Mike and Pete, is the Trouba pieces. You know, in football, they use the term controlled aggression, right? It's kind of how you have to play. Right. Trouba can still deliver big hits. He just doesn't have to lift the elbow to do so, right? That doesn't have to necessarily be part of the game. If he doesn't do that, then he doesn't have to worry about getting probably a suspendable hit.
You can't tell him how to hit, because every year that he was keeping the Rangers in the playoffs with those hits, sometimes they go for you, sometimes they go against. You know, the thing about Rempe is the only reason the Rangers can't play him is because the referees won't allow it.
Right.
That's really the reason.
His penalty the other night in the first game. His penalty the other night in the first game was ridiculous. It was horrible. It was a joke.
But that's why they can't use them.
Right.
Well, the referees won't let them use them.
Well, if they advance and if Florida advances, he's going to have to be in the lineup against Florida, because
he'll be in there against Florida for sure.
Now it was Hedl in Game 3, and I just read a piece by Jim Cerny, who's talking about Blake Wheeler being in the mix to potentially come back at some point in the next round.
Wow.
Which I didn't expect.
He shedded his non-contact jersey today. Today was the first time he practiced at a non-contact jersey. Right. He actually first practiced for the first time last week after coming back from the injury.
Yeah, he congratulated guys off the ice the other day. He was smacking his hand up against the glass. That's great. I don't want to see Hedl in there.
He's, in my opinion, and Pete, I'll let you talk, I think he's an option in case you need it due to injuries.
Yeah.
I don't think he's getting back. And look, it's nice that he came back, and it's a great story that he came back, given how devastating that injury looked. I'd be pretty darn shocked if he gets back in the lineup.
Yeah, just keep him out. Yeah, exactly.
We're going to call this episode Pete Agrees with Jan episode, because, that's exactly
I'm done here.
I think the thing with Wheeler is whenever he's had some challenges that way, it's affected what has been his bread and butter for a long time, which is his speed and ability to go down the wing. And he didn't have it for a couple of years. He hasn't, and if that's what they need out of him, they're not going to get it. Like, keep him around, keep him in the room, do that kind of thing. But yeah, he's an injury replacement. I wouldn't bring him in at all. The timing is going to be way off.
They say Hedo's not going to play, and it's true. He shouldn't play.
No. I mean, they're sorry, Michael, I'll get on that. They're terming it an quote unquote illness. Look, the fact that he was at least able to get back on the ice today is a positive. He wasn't participating in like the 3-on-3s because the fifth line of the 3-on-3 was Rempe, Edstrom, and Wheeler, which is 6'5", 6'7", and 6'7". So they're calling him the timber line based upon the size of what the redwood line, given the size of what these guys are, how big they are. So Keto didn't even get into the 3-on-3, which again brings up the question as to, God forbid, did some kind of setback happen the other night, though it hasn't been termed that way. I'm not about to opine.
I think they're being overly cautious.
And they need to be. They need to be.
Yeah. But if they're being overly cautious, he should have never played in game 3.
I mean, that's a whole other discussion.
Well, if he was cleared by the doctors and they went through every single hurdle to clear him and he practiced and didn't have a setback in the practice, as we all know, unfortunately, we don't know what's going to trigger a concussion or anything. And he said, if you listen to this game, he goes, he welcomed being hit. He said he was fine after the hits.
Yeah, but he's young. He doesn't understand all of it. He doesn't.
Nope.
Okay, and the other series with the Panthers winning 3-2 yesterday on a Barkov goal midway through the third period. They're now up 3-1, beating Boston both times at TD Garden, which I have to say,
it's a laminated sheet, Mike. I mean, if this were the Islanders, you would have it up already. There you go.
It's always at the ready, Russ. But this is the thing. I give Boston full credit for beating the Leafs because they were the better team in the series. But they lost game 2 at home. They lost game 5 at home, and they went to overtime and almost lost in game 7 at home. And now they've lost game 3 and 4 at home. Not exactly like walking into Boston Garden with Larry Bird. It's they're not playing very well at home. And I look at these teams, and Florida, for the second series in a row, consecutive years, they're just more physical, deeper, and their goaltender isn't as good, but he's pretty close. I mean, Swayman's fantastic, and Bobrovsky only had to face I think his 18 shot.
Yeah. I would say this, Mike. I mean, I covered the series with the Blues. I was eventually on the ice when they won. This Panthers team reminds me of that Blues team because that team had size, they had scoring, they had good goaltending. They had a little bit of everything, and if you went down to the third and fourth lines, those guys could hurt you too. And that's what Boston just doesn't have that depth anymore.
Russ, Florida's got Tarasenko playing on the third and fourth line. They're going back and forth.
Now the Hurricanes could match them on paper, but guys like Kuznetsov, he's not the same player anymore. So it's like you're matching him with some of those kinds of guys. But no, the Florida is dangerous because they've got a little bit of everything, and they're loaded, and they win faceoffs. They're strong down the middle. Yep. If Aaron Ekblad stays in that lineup, he is always a problem too.
But Jan, this is the thing that this is the thing that Toronto couldn't do that Florida can. And Toronto tried, being physical with Pasternak and physical with Marchand, but those guys in the end killed them. They tried to be, they weren't. But in this series, even though it was a reprehensible situation, what Bennett did, he took Marchand out. I don't know if that was intent, but he sucker punched him, and he's out of the right now. He's out of the series. And Bennett slammed Pasternak with an open ice check. They're being physical with Boston's best players. Now McAvoy went back and he hit Sam Reinhart.
On a mildly questionable call, which could have been an interference call.
McAvoy tried to set the tone the other day.
Well, that was in response to the prior game, what happened with Marchand earlier in the game. I mean, that's why the hit was given. Right. So you look at their blue line, right? Montour, Forsling, they got a really good blue line. You look at the goal Barkov scored last night was just ridiculous skill, right? Nobody touched them. I mean, you can argue all you want that the tying goal should have been taken off the board, but they just basically got beaten on that third goal, which was the difference maker. So, I mean, look, we all thought Florida's a better team. We all questioned Boston's depth to begin with, right? They lost their first and their second line centers. Zacha and Coyle both had good years during the season. I would say Coyle has stepped up a little bit. We haven't seen much of Zacha at all this playoffs, which has been a major issue. And look, as good as Swayman is, at some point in time, given the pressure Florida's going to put on them and the talent they have up front, both offensively and physically, eventually you're likely going to break, and that's what's happening at key moments at times during this game.
Right. Yeah. I mean, Peter, what do you think of this series right now?
Sorry, which one? I had to look in the email.
Panthers, Bruins.
It's fun. Like, it's nasty. It's good. Sorry, I just got caught reading something. There's nothing wrong with a little nastiness in the playoffs.
Oh, I love it.
The problem that we have right now is it's manifesting in other ways, and that's what's getting things. And we live in such a polarized world of how we look at the world right now. We used to be able to agree that was a nasty hit and off we go. Now we want a pound of flesh to go with the nastiness that goes with it, and it's just hard to kind of find the fun in it right now when it should be fun. Like, I think there's a lot of barbs going around, but yeah, it's a great series.
I'll use this as a segue to the last thing we talk about, and I look at the Panthers and what they're doing to the Bruins.
All right, Mike, we do have breaking news.
Go ahead.
It does say that Berube was interviewed by the Leafs.
I know. I reported that.
Okay. Well,
Elliot Friedman reported it on 32 Thoughts. I was going to get to that in a sec.
Oh, okay.
But no, the segue was, if you look at what the Panthers are doing to the Bruins, for 2 months ago, I said that Toronto had absolutely no chance against Florida, but they might have a puncher's chance against Boston. And it went to 7 games and they lost. But if you look at Florida and what they did to Tampa and what they're doing to Boston, the Leafs would have lost in 5 games to Florida, just like they did last year. They were not even in the same league as the Panthers. So that being said, we didn't do a show. Last time we did a show was last Tuesday. In that week, Sheldon Keefe has been fired, not shockingly. The surprising thing was Brendan Shanahan keeping his job. But if you read between the lines here, he only kept his job because Keith Pelley, the head of MLS&E, the new head of the new chairman of MLS&E, just came on board 4 weeks ago and essentially didn't want to completely decapitate the team of leadership right off the bat. But Shanahan has a year left in his contract, and I'll bet everything is going to filter through Pelley. So is he really in control, or is he not? That's the question.
Mike, Zadorov was fined $5,000.
Yeah, I know.
I said that.
He did.
I said that earlier.
Yeah, nobody's listening to me. Peter's reading something else. You're not listening.
I think it's funny.
Hey, don't say nobody. I listen to you. I may not agree with you most of the time, but I am listening to you.
Yeah, Shanahan will be gone next year.
Right, but here's the thing, and this seems to be the narrative that's going on right now because I wrote on the weekend, they made these big promises. Oh, we're going to look at everything. We're going to make changes. Okay, again. You've got 5 guys with no move clauses. You're not trading Matthews. You're not trading Nylander. Tavares has got a year left in his contract. He was asked last year. He said, no, I don't want to go anywhere. What the hell do you think has changed? Nothing. What? He's going to knuckle under the pressure. He's got 1 more year left in the contract. They can't trade him if he doesn't want to go anywhere. And he already said he doesn't want to go anywhere. And you're not going to trade Morgan Riley because your defense is already shorthanded. He's your best guy. You've been playing him 25 minutes a night. He actually needs help. And then what? You're going to
I don't think Morgan Riley's your best guy, Mike, for the Leafs.
I
think he's paid like he is. But when Riley's been out, the Leafs have played better without him.
Yeah, but they play
better. The problem is you're never going to trade him with the contract.
They play better without Matthews. They all suck it up, and for that little time, and they played really well without Marner. They there's that all for one. Last year they played better without their top 3 defensemen. And then they all came back and they were okay. But that is not to say that he's not a good defenseman. He is a good defenseman. He had 58 points this year. He shouldn't have been played 25 minutes in the playoffs, but they had to because, they had Joel Edmondson and Ilya Lyubushkin, who are limited speed, limited type of players. That's the reality. But
yeah, he's playing Ryan Suter kind of numbers shift-wise, and eventually it's going to take its toll on him.
Right. Now, the thing is, he's got, I think, 5 years left in his contract with a no-move clause. He's not going anywhere. I don't know if I'll ask him.
Or the no-move clause is essentially you get to pick where you go, and it lowers the return on us. If you want to move a player, you can, unless your name is Matt Sundin. And really, we haven't seen much of anyone behaving like Sundin.
Oh, we did. We saw who was the Allmark.
Okay, but not it doesn't happen very often.
And that was a limited no trade, but
it doesn't happen very often. My point is if you had to move, if you decided that you had to move one or two of those core four, you can do it. It's just you're very limited in how you do it.
Well, I'm gonna say this: it's like with Tavares, he apparently. I don't know if he was asked by the team, but he was asked by the media last year, and he said, "I don't want to go anywhere." And he said essentially the same thing without it being asked.
He's not moving.
He's not moving. And I this is my assertion when it comes to that. If they go and they try to get ornery with John Tavares and say we need to move you, we have to move you, they will never get another big time free agent again. Their name will be mud. He's represented by Newport Sports. You think Don Meehan will tell any of his clients ever again to sign with Toronto? Not a chance in hell.
Yeah, you'll sign with Toronto when no one else gives you the offer for the money you want.
Right, but this is the weird thing. Everybody wants to stay in Toronto like they're this great winning organization, and it's like they all just want to stay there because they grew up there and they like it there and they want their families close. But, man, they just haven't won in so long. It's amazing to me the blind faith of players that just want to stay there instead of going to the Floridas and the Colorados and the teams that are actually winning.
But the one name is Marner, and the thing is here, Marner may want to get out of there. I mean, it's going to be a year of hell. It's going to be a year of every day being asked questions about this. And if they tell him we're not going to offer you an extension, his agent could say just play out the year, and that's very possible. But if he has an opportunity to go someplace else that signs him for 8 years and gives him big money, then a trade could happen. But this whole thing of them breaking up, they're not breaking up shit, folks. They're not. I mean, they may trade one player of that core group. And maybe Tavares doesn't re-sign with them after next year, and that opens up $22 million in cap space. But the problem here is, and the lack of accountability from Brendan Shanahan. He said, "Well, I in the end, I'm responsible." You were responsible for keeping this group for 3 or 4 years when everybody was saying they could not win. You were the one, and you should be held responsible. And was he? No. He'll be held responsible when they don't renew his contract, and that's not.
There's more, Mike. There's more articles being written about where Marner isn't going to go than where he is.
Right.
It's crazy.
I've
never seen anything like this. And
like Peter just said, he controls the process.
Yeah. Like there's an article. Pittsburgh may not want him. It's like, well, Pittsburgh may not get a shot at him.
Well, and Pittsburgh can't afford him because they have 5 other guys.
I know. And then, I see, should the Flyers trade for Marner? And it's like, no, they're not going to trade for Mitch Marner. It's like, it's unbelievable the amount of speculation for this one player. With crazy.
Philadelphia, it would make sense because they need scoring.
Sure, but they would have to give up major assets that they're not prepared to give up.
Can you imagine Mitch Marner with torts?
Get your popcorn.
Yeah, exactly. Not a chance.
He wouldn't back check the first time, and Torts would bench him, and the place would go ballistic.
I honestly think one of the best places for Marner to go, where he could be cock of the walk, they'd sign him to an 8-year deal because they have tons of cap space and they have the right assets that the Leafs would want back, is Utah. I mean, They have tons of draft picks. They have got a guy like Clayton Keller who is best buddies with Austin Matthews, who probably wants to get out of there.
Yeah, but he doesn't want to go there because it's not cool. Mitch Marner wants to be in a city that he looks at and people look at him and it's like, yeah, this is a cool place to be. Not to say he doesn't want to win, but you could tell that he is just a young guy that wants to be where the action is, and Utah's not that place.
Well, the rumor is Chicago.
Yeah.
Chicago.
Problem for Marner is he grew up inundated like the rest of the Canadians, where the Leafs are everything on TV every Saturday night, got all the focus. He's brainwashed that there is a life and a world outside of Toronto that's fun, interesting, and you can be looked upon as a sports hero.
Right.
Take a look around, Mitch. It's bigger than that.
Yeah. And I'm telling you, Utah is going to be a good team in a couple of years. They've got a lot of young talent.
They do, and they have tons of draft picks.
If they handled it correctly, you could be looking at Utah, Chicago down the road as two of the top teams in the league if they both handle their business correctly.
Tons of draft picks, tons of prospect, tons of cap space. If they manage.
Like there's one other thing. So there's a thing on Reddit that was talking about Mitch Marner's private security detail, Rocket Security, who I guess are answering back to fans on Twitter, like who say stuff about Marner. Have you seen any of this?
I haven't, but this security detail, I don't know whether they were in place when he got carjacked or when it was after he got carjacked. But if they're in place when he got carjacked, they should be less concerned about what's being said on Reddit and more concerned about the safety of the guy when he's driving back to his condo.
It's just weird that like people seem
I
to
hope
know that.
Go ahead, Russ.
That this is a security detail, and yes, they're answering back to fans. It's like, that's a bad look.
Go ahead, Peter.
He could hire a virtual assistant in Peru to do it for him too. But,
right.
He's got a security detail. I just hope he looked to talk to Kevin Weeks about how you handle a carjacking.
Okay. On that note, we'll end it there. We will be back on Wednesday with another edition of the Hockey Buzzcast. For Jan Levine, for Pete Tessier, for Russ Cohen, I'm Michael Agello. Thank you for watching. And remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey.